The two views in the data file. SPSS has a nice feature. Their data files have two views. There's a data view and there's a variable view. When you start out, both of these are empty, and you could start by typing in data. So if you look at the data view, we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. Those are in general people or measurement units. And then the other area here, the columns, are the variables. So one way to enter data into SPSS is to simply start filling things in. For example, person 1, person 2, person 3, person 4, person 5, etc. And then you could name this. What does this mean? Right? And to name this to the variable, we would go into variable view. By default, it just adds a number variable 001. If we start typing in something here, for example, 70, 65, 55, 40, 56, you see it adds variable 002 to this. Right? So this is kind of like Excel. But now the advantage to Excel that SPSS have, we can go into the variable view, so we switch over, and now you see each of these rows here is actually the variable. So the variable 001 can have a name, the variable 002 can have a name. So here variable 01, we could call this ID. That's the person's ID. And now if you weren't too familiar with this data set, then you wouldn't know what ID meant. But for this purpose, we have the label here, or we can explain that ID, for example, the person's identification number. So we can use a little bit more space to explain what ID means. All right? And then variable 2, we could say that's the person's height. Right? And we could say person or height in inches. Okay. Now if we go back into the data view, we can switch back and forth. You can see here, right, ID, that's the person's identification, and height is the height. Now if you just hover your mouse over ID, it'll display the label ID. And if you hover your mouse over height, it'll display the label for height. Now there's some other things that you can specify in the variable view. Right? If you go just by order, it will ask you what type. So here you can define the variable type. What kind of data is this? Right? It could be, for example, a dollar, right? You could say, okay, this is a special format. You could use scientific notation, right? And then you can define how wide is this column and how many decimal places does it have. So let's say right now it's 2. Let's go look. Yes. Oh, we put scientific notation 1.00e, right? We can go change that. We'll just say, okay, we want it numeric. And guess what? We don't need any decimal places because it's just an identification number. So we hit OK. Now let's go back and look. And now you see it change it from 1.00 to 1, 2, 3. Okay. We could do the same thing for height, right? You see .00. And now we can switch over to variable view. You see the decimals. We could say, okay, we don't need any decimals. We'll go back. And you know what? The width, we don't need any more than 3 spaces for this, right? There's nobody that's, no person is more than 99 inches tall. Or at least I assume that's the case. So if we go back here, right? Also the zero is gone. We don't notice any change in the width, but within the data set, that's what's specified now. So this is as far as the formatting here goes, the label, and then the values. We could actually find what each of the values mean. So let me show you another example for that. All right, for example, here we have another data set. We have participant ID, intervention, gender, reaction time, and then this here, what does that mean? Conv T1, conv T2, what does that mean? If I hover over it, we see self-confidence T1 before results of the experiment are known. Then self-confidence T2 after the results of the experiment are known. Now if we go into variable view, right, we see the confidence is 4, 5, 1, 2. We want to know what does that mean exactly. And if we go into the row of this confidence T1, right, we can see that label that we've seen displayed. Now we want to know more about the values, and you can see, okay, we defined 1 as not confident at all and 5 as being very confident. So this is a Likert scale, a 5-point Likert scale, and we defined the endpoints. You could also add definitions for the points 2, 3, and 4. We go back to the very simple case here. What another thing is the missing values. You can define that. You can say there's no missing values, or you can say discrete missing values. And I'll do a separate post about that, but you could say, for example, minus 99 is a missing value. So if you see minus 99, dear SPSS, treat this as a missing value. Then what we also can do is define the measure, right? Say if it's what measurement level is it on? Is it nominal, ordinal, or scale? And in scale, SPSS does not distinguish between interval and ratio level. Right? It just puts these two together into scales. And by selecting this, it will also limit certain statistical models that we can use. So if you're trying to run a model that requires interval or ratio level data, and you specify this here scale, but your variable might only be at the nominal level, SPSS won't let you run that particular test, or it might produce a warning. So this is an overview over the data view, the data file, the variable view, and the data view.